Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Transfer Portal Podcast presented by NoContextCFB. Today is a very special episode because we are joined by Jim Weber. How's it going today?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for coming on. I first knew you from when your Twitter page was known as Lost Letterman. I don't know if that sounds like ancient times now these days, but I remember back when you were running that account, it was tweets like, name the most random college football player you can think of. Like those were like, and I remember back in those days, I was saying Jeff Duckworth, Wisconsin wide receiver, almost every single time. Why is it RIP Lost Letterman?
Yeah, so it used to be a college football blog, and then I sold it to a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, who's like a tech entrepreneur. And unfortunately, in like 2015, 2016 was really hard times for the blogosphere, and people really just weren't able to sustain profitability just through banner advertising. And you've seen a lot of companies now switch over to subscriptions like The Athletic, or you've seen a lot of other places go to just being strictly on social. I know you guys have a pretty big social following with NoContextCFB. Other companies like Overtime. I think Overtime now has a website, but they mainly are just a social sports company. So that's really where things have turned to. But yeah, so now I've turned it just into a personal account and continued the legacy on just personally.
Love it. So Jim, I think you kind of like say it in your bio, you kind of mention yourself as a uniform fanatic. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, absolutely.
And, I think that's one of our favorite things about this. I obviously see the Michigan helmet behind you. I assume you were probably born and raised Michigan fan your whole life.
Well, actually, I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. So I grew up as an Ohio State fan. But then I applied to Michigan just because I know it's a good school, and I was just putting out applications to a lot of places when I was a senior in high school. And I got in and just decided to visit Ann Arbor just to check it out, and just kind of fell in love with the town and the love for the school. And so switched over. My freshman year was actually John Cooper's last year. So I got 1 year of enjoying Michigan trouncing Ohio State. And then it's been a rough 20 years since then. Obviously, last Thanksgiving weekend was amazing, but it's been that's been the lone bright spot of the last 20 years.
So I guess kind of like to get us started, let's go back to the roots. All right, I'm gonna do a countdown here, and as soon as I get done doing this countdown, you got to tell me the most random player that you can think of. We're gonna throw it back a little bit. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm going to go with Drew Dillio, Michigan wide receiver from the Brady Hoke era.
God damn, that was actually when I first really started getting into football, and even that is like vaguely back of my mind.
Yeah, he was like an undersized slot receiver. You could call him a Wes Welker type with deceptive speed.
Andrew, who's the first random player that comes into your mind?
So, funny story. It's Clint Ratkovic, I guess you can call him a fullback / just tailback for Northern Illinois. I actually have an autographed card of him, and I was just thinking that's one of the most random autographs you can have. Obviously not the oldest guy. He's pretty dang recent, but I just thought that was a pretty, it's not the greatest auto, but it's also just a fun one to have. He was a fun player to watch.
I was thinking about this question a little bit earlier, and I was like, for some reason, Rakeem Cato is really like in the back of my mind, and thinking about like how it felt like. I remember one time I was reading a preview. I think it was like 2013, I think it was. And it was basically saying like teams most likely to go undefeated. And I saw Marshall was on it. And I was like, Marshall, Thundering Herd, Huntington, West Virginia guys, like zero way that Thundering Herd would go undefeated. But sure enough, he was the quarterback for the Thundering Herd for that season. And Marshall didn't go undefeated in their conference USA. So, huge props to Marshall and Rakeem. I think he's got to be among the most underrated players that we've probably seen.
He was definitely a stud. I think he's still in the CFL, if I recall correctly.
Makes sense. I'm actually somewhat shocked that he's probably didn't make it in the NFL. That's what shocked me. Jim, could you honestly, you said you're a Columbus guy and you grew up a Buckeyes fan, then you've essentially turned over to the Sith side. Could you recall the moment that you fell in love with college football?
Wow. I'm trying to think back to the early days being an Ohio State fan. I just remember going to Buckeye games when I was really young. I don't know which game really was the first one. I'd say probably my earliest memory is Ohio State and Michigan tying in the Big House. Back when ties were still a thing in college football. So this was probably 1991 or 1992. But just going into Ohio Stadium for a Michigan game, the atmosphere is just really unmatched. The passion of Ohio State fans, the pageantry of the Ohio State band doing Script Ohio, everything about it was just incredible. And obviously I'm still going to Ohio State Michigan games to this day. I've switched sides, but it's still a tremendous experience 30 years later.
Andrew, man, how about yours?
All right. Well, I'm a little bit younger, so I'm only going to 2013. I started watching in like 07, but I was also 4, so I don't know if I can really call that falling in love with. So my first real vivid experience, 2013, I remember watching in my room. I have this like 17-inch gray Toshiba screen right in front of me, and I have on CBS and I have on the Kick 6 game, and that was just like iconic for me. I don't know. I wasn't even like the most coherent because I'm still like at this point 10. It was just one of the most magical things. Like that was one of the most improbable things, because when you see a game-winning field goal get lined up for, you don't think it's getting returned for 6. You think he's either going to miss it or he's going to make it. You don't think about the other team doing anything. It was just one of the best college football moments I've ever seen, and the first big one that made me really want to follow the sport.
So for me personally, I'm a little bit older than Uninjured here, but I've always kind of like watched just games with my dad when I was younger. But I just knew that football was football. I didn't really know the massive difference between college football and NFL. Hell, when I first started watching college football, I once had a Georgia game and I thought the Packers were playing. They were wearing alternate uniforms. I wish I was kidding. But as I got older, as I was getting like to the 12 and 13 era, I started paying attention like more closely to games. Like, I was still repping Wisconsin, being from Wisconsin. By the way, I forgot to mention, we got 3 Midwest guys here. How about that? And one day he was telling me that like the number one team, this was 2010. He was telling me that like the number one team in the country lost last week, which I think was when Alabama lost to South Carolina. And that there was a chance that another number one team could lose again. I think it was Oklahoma. And I think that was when they lost. And then Ohio State was the new number one team, and they were going to Madison in Wisconsin. So my dad was like, I think the Badgers are going to get their ass kicked, but I think we still need to watch this game. And I remember we went to a bar, and I still remember to this day, I remember David Gilreath receiving the kickoff from Ohio State, and Brent Musburger and Kirk Herbstreit were on the call, and Camp Randall was probably the loudest it's ever been. You could hear every fan scream through the television, seeing David Gilreath, and then that was essentially John Clay, James White. James White was only a freshman for Wisconsin at the time, and he was really breaking out. That was when he was having his all Big Ten year, and Wisconsin ends up winning that game by like 10. Camp Randall goes insane. I believe the fans stormed the field that day. And when I saw that moment, I was like, I am hooked. I am in. Ain't ever gonna live a moment like that ever again in my life.
That's great. Yeah, I was just joking on Twitter the other day that, if you're a really young college football fan, you don't even know who Brent Musburger is. which is crazy at this point. But he's been off of the Saturday Night Football game for many years now. So it's crazy how quickly it all goes.
Well, it's also kind of insane because, like, it's, how do I say this? Now we're about to enter an era where people don't even know who Chris Fowler is on College Game Day. That's another thing. We're about to go to an era where people are not going to know what it's like to see Vern Lundquist on the 3:30 game calling the biggest SEC game of the week on CBS. Am I saying that it's worse? I mean, I don't know, because, with the three of us being Big Ten guys here, it's crazy to think that, like, hey, now Big Ten is probably going to take that spot from SEC after 2023. We're hearing about these rumors like, hey, CBS can get in on this Big Ten deal if ESPN decides to not go in. So speaking of that sort of thing, I've been to Madison. It's one of my favorite places ever in my life. Andrew, he reps Minnesota. We don't get along very well. You've spoken about being in Ann Arbor and you absolutely loving the city when you first stepped in. What is the stadium/college town that you think you'd want to visit the most?
Well, I've been to Austin. That was amazing. I've been to Chapel Hill. That was amazing. Definitely, I'd say Wisconsin is on the bucket list. Madison. A lot of people I know have been there to Michigan-Wisconsin games. So I'd say I definitely want to go there in terms of the Big Ten. I'd say Madison is up there, and I'd say Athens, Georgia. I hear people talk about how great that is. And then I'd say, I don't know about the college town I'd most want to be at, but a place I'd like to go see a game is LSU. Death Valley at night, I think, would be on the bucket list of games I have to go see.
Do you want bar recommendations once you go to Madison?
Absolutely.
College Club is among favorites among students and faculty at Madison. People like going to State Street Brats. I don't know if you're a bratwurst fan yourself, but people absolutely love it.
I'm not, but I feel like when in Rome, you gotta have.
You just gotta experience it.
Yeah.
And how common are cheese curds up in Michigan?
I've never had one, so I don't see them around here.
Wow,
man. For y'all literally just being literally across the lake, how do we not get this over there?
I don't know. You're going to have to smuggle some over.
Also, try out this beer called Spotted Cow, really popular among Wisconsinites.
Okay. I'll definitely keep that in mind.
Andrew, how about you? What's college town/stadium you'd want to visit?
I agree with Baton Rouge completely. I want to see that entire environment, Death Valley, the tailgates, the student section there is crazy. Everything about that city is crazy with LSU. I want to go to Whiteout for Penn State, whether it's this year because Minnesota's playing or just any year in general. I would love to see that. Everyone talks about it, how it's, the best environment in the sport. I agree with it. Just watching it on TV, I can't imagine how crazy it is live. And there's also a part of me that just wants to go to the Rose Bowl, like the actual Rose Bowl game. I don't want to see a UCLA home game when there's 27 people. Just seeing the color split, red and blue, or this year is red and red. So kind of but such a amazing environment, the granddaddy of them all for a reason.
Well, you can go to Minnesota UCLA in a couple of years.
Yep. That will be what? Maybe this year, maybe UCLA has a great year. Maybe Minnesota has a great year.
Wow, that'd be great.
Truthfully, I mean, I'm not saying this to kiss your ass because you're a Michigan guy, but like, I do want to go to Ann Arbor. I do want to go to Michigan State and Big House. Reason why is because it's in the aspect of that. It's literally the biggest stadium, I believe, in North America. Not just the United States, but I think it's the biggest in North America. I want to visit just for the whole sake of saying that I was in the largest stadium, only behind North Korea's stadium, but we're not going that far into it. I do want to visit Ann Arbor. Baton Rouge is obviously there. It's literally a 3-hour drive for me right now, so I really don't. I don't know what's stopping me. I got to go to it. But in terms of proper college town, I've heard a lot of good things about Columbus. I've heard a lot of mixed stories about that Ohio State fans are jackasses. And I've heard of a lot of good things that a lot of Ohio State fans are Midwest nice. I don't know which one to agree with. With Wisconsin going over to Columbus this year, it's something that I really, really want to visit.
Yeah, I would say the majority of Ohio State fans are pretty friendly, but every fan base has a small percentage that are bad. I'd say the percent that are bad are like off the radar, like totally nuts. So the fans in Columbus, the crazy fans are crazier than just about anywhere else except for maybe Alabama. So that's the one thing you're dealing with when you go to Columbus.
Which one do you think is the better stadium experience between Ohio and Michigan Stadium?
So I'd say that the better experience in terms of like the electricity would be Ohio Stadium. It's loud, it's nuts, it's exciting. In terms of Michigan Stadium, it's not nearly as loud, but I will say it's really cool to look out over the big house, and it's just the sea of people just like blending in. It's like, maybe it's kind of just unlike anything you've ever seen, unless you've maybe been to the Rose Bowl, where even in Ohio Stadium, you can kind of like pick out individual people when you look across the field. In Michigan Stadium, they all just kind of blur together. So I'd say the visual of Michigan Stadium is cooler in terms of, what's the more exciting game day atmosphere. I'd say Ohio Stadium.
Do you feel like you're going to get canceled by the Michigan Alumni Association or?
I guess it's possible. I think Michigan fans know that it's not known as the rowdiest group of fans. I see that, opponents consistently say they're surprised at how quiet the big house is for having over 110,000 fans. Although I will say that last Thanksgiving weekend for Ohio State, that was really a special experience in terms of the electricity there. I felt like I was in the Horseshoe or another, crazy environment like Camp Randall Stadium. They really turned things up. I think everyone knew that was going to be a special day. So they ratcheted up to a new level to beat Ohio State. So that was really fun.
How'd you bundle up in that cold over there?
It was definitely cold. It was 25 degrees. The snow was coming down. But I think everyone was just so jacked up that, the game had gotten canceled the year before. So it had been 2 years since the Ohio State Michigan game. I think everyone, and the fact that, they had only lost one game to Michigan State. I think everyone knew that it was a special team. So I think everyone just kind of shoved the weather aside for that afternoon. So yeah, it was pretty great.
I feel like now we got to touch on the bad things of your favorite things. I don't know if that makes sense. As we preluded earlier, you call yourself a big uniform fan. Let's focus on the bad side. What is the ugliest uniform in college football, in your honest opinion?
This is like a standard uniform, or can this include alternate uniforms?
Let's have some fun here. Let's do both.
Okay. Well, I'd say in terms of the alternate uniforms, the ugliest I can think of off the top of my head were, do you remember the Maryland uniforms that people called like the car crash ones?
Yeah.
The one that had the flag literally across the shoulders?
Yeah. That one was like the first one where I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening to college football uniforms? And then I'd say any alternate uniform that Virginia Tech comes up with. They've had like the turkey feet. They've had the Hokie Stone helmet. Pretty much anything they've come out with alternate wise. I like their regular uniforms, but alternate wise, I'm just like, these are just ridiculously awful. In terms of just a regular uniform, this may not be the ugliest, but I'd say in terms of what they could be wearing, I'd say my least favorite ones are Arizona State, because the Sparky throwbacks are so incredible. And the pitchfork Adidas look, and I'm sure you guys saw the alternate uniforms that were on a mannequin the other day.
The beige ones.
Yeah, so I'd say those are these might not be the ugliest in all of college football, but I'd say they're my least favorite because they're taking place of the Arizona State Sparky uniforms.
Juster, how about yours?
All right. So for the alternate, I'm going to stick with Old Faithful, the Gator Skin, Florida. That was an atrocity committed against all mankind. That should never be done ever again. I wish we could erase it from everybody's memory. Get what movie is the Men in Black with the blaster? Yeah. Will Smith's holding it. Just
the neuralizer.
Yeah. So get that out of my memory. I will also say second place is the neon state across the chest, Michigan State. That was awful. Whoever made that, I don't know why you have a job. And then for the normal uniforms, I don't know if this is a hot take. I hate Nebraska's uniforms. I hate them. I understand that they're iconic, but it just doesn't look good. White and red are just not colors I think go well together. I also hate that their helmet just has the basic red N on it. I would rather you just be Penn State and just have an all white helmet, or literally any other school that just has a basic helmet. It just looks weird to me.
Do you not remember the alternate uniforms that they wore against Wisconsin in 2012? It was literally all red with a giant black N on the jersey, and they had a black helmet with the red N. It looked like the N from the Netflix logo.
Yeah.
That would be a good advertising partner. Get Netflix on the Nebraska thing on the jersey or the helmet, I guess.
Jim, what are you gonna say?
I was just saying I think that was more of Adidas.
That is Adidas, because I feel like I am the absolute minority because I remember that game off the top of my head. They had Wisconsin wear the red helmet with the white W on it. And it was essentially almost the same thing that Nebraska was wearing, but they had the white jersey with the red shoulders with the red W on the front. I remember they were selling these jerseys by themselves in the online shops, and like I don't know why, but because it was just a one-time game, and like they obviously were not going to wear those uniforms again, I just kind of wanted to buy it. I don't know why. I just really wanted that jersey. I think the state on the Michigan State, that is yuck. That essentially just perfectly defines the end of Mark D'Antonio's tenure at East Lansing. That was kind of, I think, a jersey that we don't really slander enough is Miami's of Florida's, in case if there was any Red Hawk fans that wanted to get on me. But it feels like we're bringing up Adidas a lot. And truthfully, I feel like we used to be in a time of where Adidas actually made quality uniforms for schools. But we kind of like seeing what they're doing with the likes of Arizona State, Miami. I don't hate their uniforms with Nebraska. I really don't. But like when you just look at the modern day Miami uniforms, they just don't reach out the same way that they used to, back in the day. It doesn't scream you to me, it feels posh. It feels very Van Gogh. It's like Van Gogh tried to paint a uniform, but like, I don't mean that in a way of insulting Van Gogh. I mean that in a way of that was just Van Gogh's style on a jersey. It just doesn't work well for me. That's a university that truthfully needs to go to Nike in all honesty.
Yeah.
Also, do you play the NCAA video games at all or no?
I mean, I used to. I know that some people still play the old ones.
The 14.
Like updated rosters and stuff like that, but I haven't played in a while.
So you're not going to getting the 2024 next season?
Well, I think I will get it next year just because, I feel like if it's been 10 years since the game came out, I have to celebrate with everyone else. But I'm getting a little too old for video games by myself, but I'll definitely make an exception for.
Oh, that's such a lie. Don't listen to these people tell you that. No one's ever too old. Do you remember the first NCAA football video game you ever played?
I mean, I remember before it was even NCAA football. I remember playing like Bill Walsh football in the 90s, where they didn't even have the school names. They would say like College Station was the name of the team instead of Texas A&M because they didn't have the naming rights. So that's ancient times.
Do you feel like there was ever like a player that was like, because like obviously, you were never given the player's name. It was literally just QB number 2, QB number 5. Do you think there was ever like a video game player that was just like more unstoppable, like comparable to Michael Vick and Madden 04?
Yeah. I remember like DJ Shockley for Georgia. I remember they had the rotating system with David Green and DJ Shockley, and I remember just subbing David Green out every time because they made DJ Stockley so fast. Or I also thought it was hilarious that you could sub in like a fast wide receiver or a cornerback, and you just scramble, and you just go in shotgun and scramble immediately. Don't even worry about passing. And there's basically nothing the defense could stop you. So there were some kind of loopholes in the game, or the fact that like the cornerback could throw the ball almost as good as a quarterback. They didn't like ratchet it way down considering the guy played on defense. But those are kind of some of the things now that looking back made it so much fun.
Andrew, what's your experience? Because it sounds like they used to play NCAA 14 to this day.
Yeah, I have my Xbox 360 hooked up, and I'm right now taking care of Toledo. So they are a New Year's 6 team right now. We're gonna try and make the MAC great. We're not gonna move them up. Toledo's too good to play in a conference like the ACC. We need to keep them in the MAC where they belong. Yeah, I just play. I don't do the revamped because as cool as that is, I'm not good with tech. So I wish I could, but I have fun dealing with QB number 5 and why he can't run the ball as well as QB 7.
You can do like a roster download.
I don't have like the Xbox Live Gold thing for 360.
I forgot about that.
So
is that even a thing anymore?
It is for the 360. I think you can still get it, but I don't know how well it would work, and I'm not trying to risk it.
That's a good point. All right. I think we're going to do something that I think all of us can agree would be fun to do. We are going to be doing a snake draft, Mount Rushmore of favorite uniforms all time.
Okay.
Let's, who wants to go first on this one?
I can take the first pick if no one else wants it. I'll take the 6th, unfortunately, but I want to make sure I get my first one locked.
Is that what you really care about? All right, how this, Jim? I'll let you take second, and I'll go third, and we'll just do snake on it.
Okay.
All right. First up, I'm going to take. I don't know if this is. I guess there's not really a draft board who thinks what's the best. This is my personal opinion. I love UCLA. The baby blue, the gold trim, the gold helmet just screams iconic to me. It's one of the best color combinations in the country. UCLA has the best blue. They use it very well. It just screams West Coast to me, and that's what UCLA is. I love this uniform and everything about it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be a homer here and go with Michigan Wolverines.
Damn it.
Helmet is just like the most iconic look in college football. So got to go with that.
I'm going to go ahead and go just south. I am going to go with Ohio State's home, but not just the regular home. I think my favorite primetime uniform that I think Ohio State wears is obviously, the scarlet and the gray pants, but I really like what they do with the helmets whenever they make the Buckeye on the helmet screen. And like whenever you show the stadium lights and it reflects off the helmet, it honestly just looks so badass. It's perfect for primetime conference games. Whenever I see that, I instantly think of them beating the likes of a Penn State. I remember they've worn those against Wisconsin a few times. The first time I think I remember them wearing it was like 2013 when Joel Stave, that should have been my random player to think about earlier. But in 2013 when they were playing the Joel Stave Badgers and they were wearing the green Buckeye on the helmets, and I just thought that was like the best. Now go ahead and correct me, but if there's one thing that needs to be spoken in truth, is that Notre Dame does not wear green jerseys enough. And I don't know which game it was. I think it was only like 2 years ago where they wore the all green jerseys. It was part of their Shamrock series. When I saw them wear that uniform, I was like, thank God. Why does Notre Dame not wear green uniforms? I got to give a special shout out to Marcus Freeman for being part of that hype video that Notre Dame just did. I really love the way that green looks on them.
Okay, I'm going to go with the throwback Hawaii Rainbow Warriors uniforms with the white helmet with the rainbow and the UH at the bottom of the rainbow. I think that's a throwback classic.
All right, from throwback to pretty dang recent, I have to throw Oregon in here at some point. They just make some of the best uniforms ever. So it's not their base one, but they had one. I don't remember who they played. It was a textured black with neon green numbers, neon green accents everywhere. And it was a black helmet with the green wings they have. I just think that is the sickest thing ever. It is sleek. It is just what you would expect to be aerodynamic, even though it's a jersey. It doesn't really affect that. It just looks aerodynamic, especially the helmet. So I love that color combination. Oregon just does everything great with jerseys as long as they don't have the orange socks to make them look like Donald Duck.
What the hell's wrong with that?
I'm not a fan.
Oh, all right. You got pick again.
Oh, true. I'm going back to back. You were talking about Miami earlier. I'm actually going to go with Miami. The OG
The current Miami?
No, OG. The 90s into early 2000s. Those ones just, I love the orange. I love the white helmet. Just everything about that Miami team was filled with swagger, including the jerseys. I wish I could add the visors, but I don't think that's really safe anymore. If you can get me like a Sean Taylor helmet with the visor, jersey combination, and maybe him playing safety, I would be pretty dang happy.
All right. I guess I'll go with my third pick I really like Oregon's current uniforms, but my favorite are the 1990s uniforms. They've worn the throwbacks a couple times with the UO and the yellow helmet, and they got the Donald Duck logo on the side, on the shoulder. I think they cannot wear those enough. So I'd say those are my third pick.
Okay, I really feel like I'm really in a tight spot right now. Man. I really don't want to say one of these because I just feel like it would not be my next pick. But I feel like one of y'all would take it on the spot. Oh my God.
Well, you're going to back to back, so it doesn't really matter.
I know, but it's I feel like I got three in my mind, and I feel like if I just pick, one of those, all right. I feel like I'm going to be cheating a little bit here, but I'm going to go with the Michigan under the lights alternate uniforms that they wore against Notre Dame in 2011. I see so many people absolutely hating this uniform. And I don't know why. Every time I think about those uniforms, it brings me back to Denard Robinson scoring that game-winning touchdown against Notre Dame. It's clean. I really like the Michigan I really like the M on the front. I like the stripes on the shoulders. And when I was playing NCAA football 14, every time I ran with Michigan, that was the uniform I always picked. I didn't go with the modern Michigan. I went with the under the lights uniforms from that game. Yeah, this last one, for my last pick, I'm gonna be a homer but I'm gonna be a homer. I'm gonna say the University of Houston uniforms, and go with the uniforms where they were the U of H logo with the Texas background, with the Texas flag background behind the lettering. It's honestly symbolic to me. It's a little personal because it's Texas, Houston. Every team in Texas wants to have that dominance, that state dominance. And whenever I think about those uniforms, it's a repping the state. So it's typically just a normal UH uniform, but when they wear the helmets with the Texas flag, it's just bread and butter.
All right, I guess with my last one, I will go with USC. I feel like the helmet is just amazing with the Trojan on the side, and I think the uniforms, the red and the yellow, I think are beautiful together. It kind of gives this vintage Hollywood feel. I think back to all the Trojan greats, Charles White, Pat Hayden, OJ, although obviously, people think of other things when they think of OJ now. But yeah, a lot of great memories in those Trojan uniforms. So I'd say that's my fourth pick.
I'm going to stay on the West for this final pick. I'm going to take the Boise State blue jersey, outlined in orange with the silver numbers, and it has the blue helmet with the enlarged Bronco, not the normal one. I just love this. especially when they play on the blue turf, even though I'm not a personal fan of the blue turf. I just think it looks sick. It just, I don't know why I like it. I think orange looks great on uniforms, especially when it's used as an accent, not like a entire piece. I think it's sick. I love the helmets. It has the little orange eye for the Bronco. Just makes it look like it's alive and ready to run you over.
All right, there you go. So for Andrister, we have UCLA at home. We have the UCLA home uniforms. Bold number one pick in my honest opinion. Or the Oregon green and black. I feel like you could go ahead and like be a little bit more descriptive on that. The original Miami uniforms that we all know and love with the Sean Taylor and Ray Lewis era. And then lastly, your Boise State blue jersey with orange outline. And you said with the black helmet, right?
No, the blue.
The blue helmet. Okay, I got you. Jim, we have we have standard Michigan home. We have the Hawaii throwback rainbow uniforms. We have the 1990s Oregon uniforms, which I assume will take us back to the Acolyte Smith days. And we also have essentially USC home. I got Ohio State home, Notre Dame green. It's killing me. I need to find out when they wore those uniforms. I've got the 2011 Michigan under the lights, and then UH with the Texas helmet. I'm kind of disappointed with a couple of. I feel we got to end this with some honorable mentions because we obviously left a ton out. How did no one pick Texas away?
Yeah, those are really good.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like the 2011, 2012 era, I think that was the best uniforms. I feel like that was back when, this is my personal opinion, I think those were the best Oregon uniforms was when Chip Kelly was there. I remember seeing the green with the white, with the yellow outline, with the shiny numbers and the shining wings on the shoulders. And they had the wings on the helmets. I thought so many of those uniforms were so class, especially when Marcus Mariota was there and he had his Heisman moments. I feel like you could Google almost any Oregon uniform from like those early 2010s, and I feel like you get instant classics. Also, TCU. TCU had some great uniforms. And what I really liked was not when they just had the TCU logo on the helmet, like where it just was the TC and the U, but when they had the Horned Frog, the purple, some of those Andy Dalton uniforms that they had during those times. I thought they had some of the most great uniforms. The purple and black is such a good contrast that I really wish that they would kind of like throw back to a little bit to these days.
Like those, I'd say the two off the top of my head that I really love, that I would have loved to have picked are the throwback Arizona State, the Sparky logo, which I mentioned before, and the Florida State uniforms from before. You know, they messed up the uniforms and they played around with the helmet. It's not too much different than it used to be, but you know the old Florida State uniforms that Dion wore and Jameis Winston wore, those were all time.
I think if I had to say one, I think I'm one of the only people in the world that likes this. I loved the purple Clemson uniforms. I love them. I think I don't know why. The orange outline, I don't know. It's so different for a team that only rocks like orange and white usually, that they just bring in a massive thing of purple. And I mean, I like the LSU, how they use purple. Obviously, it's not that broad, but I don't know why I like the purple that much. I just do.
Honestly, something I'm surprised that LSU does not do, and they need to bring it back, is they need to start wearing the purple jerseys again. Like, I'm sorry, but the fact that they go with, the white jersey and yellow pants so much, like they do it for both the home and the away games, and they only wear a purple jersey for like the absolute most special of special occasions, which only happens like once every 3 years. Why do they not wear that purple jersey? They need to bring back the purple jersey. I don't even remember Joe Burrow wearing it once while he was at LSU.
I think he wore it once.
I wore it once, but that was it. It's like, come on, man. Like, they play 27 games since he was there.
Yeah. Just a great uniform. Purple and orange are two great colors. Probably not together, but.
Listen now, who is a school, before we end this, who's a school that like honestly needs a rebranding with the uniforms? Like just needs to like just chuck what you already got and just start from scratch.
I would like Iowa State to start over. I think the block I with the state over it is just really boring and generic. I think we need some more flavor in there. They used to have a pretty cool helmet with the cyclone bird in a tornado, which I thought was pretty cool. They ditched that. I think they wanted a more traditional look, but I think they just ended up with something very boring.
I'd probably go Arizona. It's just plain the block A, just nothing really too special about it. Just make your brand something. Arizona football is not really anything right now. You might as well be known for cool jerseys.
I would like to see Iowa do something different. I'm sorry, but my issue with Iowa right now is there is not a day that I'll watch an Iowa football game and I think to myself, these guys just literally just stole from the Steelers is all they did. They literally keep – I mean, I've been saying this ever since I first started watching like 2010-ish. They just need something fresh and they just need something they just need something fresh and new. Like it's kind of boring. It's borderline pathetic. Maybe the fans love it.
You're going to get some real hate on your Twitter feed because Iowa fans love their uniforms.
Trust us, we get a lot of hate from Iowa fans already because we're a Minnesota and a Wisconsin guys, so we hate them a lot.
Yeah, I don't care what they say. I take more word from the Church of Satan that's down the street from me.
Oh my goodness! Hot takes are flying left and right.
Not literally, but I think we've reached to a good point here. Jen, before we officially close this out, do you got anything else for us?
No, I'm just excited. I think it's 18 days left until week 0. So can't wait for the helmets to start popping and the craziness to get started. As you guys chronicle, there's just so many funny things that happen every day on a college football Saturday. There's so much to laugh about, so much to enjoy that I can't wait for it to get started again.
What's Michigan's record this year?
I'd say 10-2. I think they'll lose one game before Ohio State and then probably lose in Columbus. To expect to beat them 2 years in a row and do it in Columbus is just too much to ask. But I think they'll be good. But going to the college football playoff again and beating Ohio State back-to-back years is probably too much to ask.
All right, cool, guys. If you made it this far in, just want to give you guys thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We'll probably see a couple TikTok clips from here. Hopefully not from me. But guys, once again, thank you guys so much for listening. Y'all have a good one.